This conference will now be recorded.
Perfect. Obviously, yes. So we are on right now. So we are officially getting started with the MLOps Specialization program, the course demo. So I would like to officially welcome every one of you folks. Thanks for making your time for joining this awesome demo. This is going to be really exciting. And again, this week is going to be really awesome with this particular webinar. Okay. So please make sure you stay till end of this particular session. Only if you stay till end of this particular session, you can able to download the free MLOps ebooks. And I'm going to walk you through the next 5 to 10 years, how does an MLOps looks like? And again, we have arranged an awesome demo. You can able to enjoy this awesome demo only if you stay till end of this particular program. Awesome. So let's get started. So what is this? The demo is all about. Obviously, it's about MLOps and our program called MLOps Specialization Program. We'll discuss about that one in detail. Okay. Before we getting started, I would like to understand the awesome audience that we do have in the session right now. So obviously you folks are joining from various points of the world. So take a few minutes and just describe, are you a student or working professional? In case if you're a working professional, what kind of a job that you've been, like in case you might be a data scientist, you might be a data engineer, you might be an ML engineer. Try to describe so I can get some insights, so I can able to set a threshold in my brain, so I can able to deliver the quality content. So please go ahead, use your chat window, try to describe who you are. Just mention you are a senior data scientist, you might be a junior data scientist, you might be an ML engineer, you might be a DevOps professional, you might be a data engineer, data analyst. Who are you? Just mention it. Here we go. Like, please do use your chat window. Here we have Ranjit says he's an Azure platform engineer. Awesome, Ranjit. And here we have Yamini working as a senior quality assurance. That's awesome. Here we have Bala, sorry if I'm pronouncing your names wrong, working as a data engineer, cybersecurity engineer. We do have working professional working on a data platform, web developer, DevOps professional. Then we do have Anup, data scientist. That's awesome. So, and Uday says from DevOps background. Shubham Roy, sorry. So NLP data scientist, Sudhir data analyst, data analyst. We do have data scientist, Azure data engineer. That's awesome. So we do have M&E officer. That's awesome. So please try to describe who you are in the chat window. So let's get started with the particular program. So I will set a set threshold accordingly, so I can able to deliver the content for you guys accordingly. So please use your chat window, try to describe who you are. Okay. So here we have Kushi says DevOps engineer. We have Shiva says intern data scientist. That's awesome. Please describe who you are. Okay, here we go. Thank you so much for describing who you are. Let's get started with this program right now. So what is this program is all about? Obviously, in this 2 hours where I'm going to walk you through guys into MLOps, the world of MLOps, and how does your future looks like for the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, let's get started with this particular program without making any more delay. Okay, so quick introduction about me, your trainer for this demo session. So let me just quickly turn on my camera. I believe you folks should able to see me right now. Hi folks, yes. Hello everyone, this is Sharad. I'm a trainer for this particular program. I'm a founder and CEO of Citron Technologies. I mean, we work in 2 phases. One is a corporate and retail training, and the one is servicing. So personally, I've been training more than 5,000 plus people, especially who want to become a specialist in machine learning, MLOps, and anything. Let's say pretty much anything related to AWS or Azure or GCP or open source tools in terms of ML, AI, and MLOps, where the best people's outside. So you can go and check out our website, www.citrontech.com. You can able to get more details about me and what we do. Okay, so more about us later. So now let's get started with this particular program. Okay, so I'm going to just turn off my camera, otherwise you'll be having my screen feed towards left side. It might be interrupting you. So let's get started with this particular program right now. Okay, that's awesome. Now, so these are the 3 important things that I'm going to walk you guys through in this particular program. So we're going to talk about what is this really MLOps is all about, what we call it as machine learning operations, and what it takes to master MLOps really, and what are the job opportunities looks like in MLOps. So what does your future might looks like in next 5 to 10 years. These are the things that we're going to discuss. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. Perfect. So now, hey, here is a task for you guys. Okay, very simple task. What it is, I want you folks to observe this particular screen for next few seconds. Then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Here's the task for you folks. Okay, don't miss it. Go ahead and start observing this particular picture, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Let's get started. Start watching it. Perfect. Here we go. So what do you think this picture is about? You can also use your chat window to describe this particular picture. So you can also use your chat window, try to describe what is this particular picture, what kind of objects, sceneries that you can able to find from this particular picture. So go ahead. So here we have Shubham Rai says it's a dog park. That's an awesome description, Shubham. Akhil says, okay, so let's say Girish says the dog show event. That's awesome. So Sridhar says a competition for dogs. Okay, that's awesome. Obviously, Bhavana says trees and grasses. Ranjit says walking track in a park. That's awesome. That's an awesome description. That's good. That's really awesome. So, but my question is this. Let me put it in a different way, folks, for you guys. So how do you know this is a picture of a park? Okay, maybe you can stop using a chat. Try to listen to my the question what I'm asking you. How do you know this is a picture of a park? That's a question. Okay, so how do you know this is a picture of a park? And how do you know this is a picture of a human? Maybe the male. How do you know this is a picture of a female? And how do you know this is a dog? You folks are mentioning it's a dog, right? And how do you know this is a path where we can able to walk, and these are trees, and these are the grasses where we can just sit and enjoy the day? The question is, how do you know it? How do you know it? Just think, and maybe you can use your chat window to try to mention that. So here we have Bhavna just mentioning in the chat window. She says based on labeling. That's an awesome description. Obviously, let's put it in even more different way, folks. Okay, what if I'm going to take that particular picture, I'm going to use this picture, I'm going to show this picture to a newborn baby. Okay, so newborn baby, I'm talking about a baby which is less than 1 year old. Okay, so what if, do you think like this baby could able to recognize the same things that you have recognized right now, right? So it doesn't, right? So baby doesn't know anything else apart from a baby, like a baby which is less than 1 year old, barely could able to recognize his mother or father, but apart from that, a baby doesn't know anything else, nothing, right? Obviously. So but what if when the person grows, let's say what if when a baby grows, let's say he will be started learning how to walk, how to talk, how to recognize peoples. Now barely maybe this particular person could able to recognize what are the objects in that particular picture, isn't it? Obviously. And let's say what if I want to put it like a graph, let's say the growth cycle of a human being, let's say what if I put it like a graph. So each and every day we learn something, right? So or probably let's say we learn from a books, we learn from parents, we learn from our college, something like that. So let's say each and every day we learn something really good and we become more better. So I mean, so the learning curve exponentially grows up. So you might ask a question, how it is really related to what we are talking about MLOps today? How it is related? So today we are talking about AI, artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, are what we are talking about MLOps today, right? So we are the best examples of what we call it as AI today, right? So consider that a newborn baby doesn't know anything else. Like when the person grows, he keeps on learning things, he become much more better. Right now, you folks are the best examples of AI, what I'm trying to say. Like you folks have made the decision today because AI can able to make a decision and AI can able to make a predictions of what's going to happen in the future. So you folks have made a decision to attend this session. You folks decided to provide you valuable 2 hours with me in order to learn something about MLOps. So we are the best examples and we could able to make a decisions for our future. So, and again, the same things what we have learned, the same way we could able to learn and way we have become better, and then we can able to make a predictions and take a decisions for the future. So here today human beings want to teach the same kind of a data that we have learned. We want to teach that particular data to this machine, so a machine can able to make a decisions behalf of you. So what we're calling it as AI today, right? So let's throw a simple use case where everyone can able to understand this, pretty much an easy process. Okay, let's say I have some kind of a data. So what is this data? Let's say I might have some kind of a CSV files. Okay, let's say here is my CSV file, basically a document that I'm talking about. Let's say here I have some 30,000 data points. I mean, I have 30,000 rows in that particular CSV file. So what is this data is about? This data is a 3 years of data that I harvested. So what do you mean by that? Let's say this data has the electricity consumption of your home. I mean, how much electricity your washing machine, it can be water geyser, it may be air conditioning unit, or any electrical appliances that you have in your home, how much electricity does it consumes. Let's say I have all this data, the bills that you are paid, everything. for last 3 years. So my goal is pretty much simple, folks. I want to take this data, I want to teach this data to a machine. Okay, a machine can be your computer, it can be any high-end server in a cloud platform, or it can be any edge devices. My goal is I want to teach this data to a machine. So machine tries to understand a pattern from it. What do you mean by pattern? Obviously, it tries to understand how much electricity you consume during winter, how much electricity you consume through spring, or maybe in different seasons, obviously, right? So it can able to understand the pattern how you consume electricity. Pretty much simple. So then once the machine has learned all the data, it produces something called machine learning model, which is going to be a part of final end product, folks. And once a machine produces this ML model, I can ask this machine to make a decision for my future. I mean, I can able to ask this model to make a decision for a future. What if I tell you that with this ML model, I can able to forecast your electricity bills. I can able to forecast what bills that you might pay for the next 6 months. What is the bill that you're going to pay for the first month, the third month, or what is the bill that you're going to pay for 6 months and a sixth month? So yes, that's it. And now we go ahead and deploy this model, and you can able to solve a problem, what we call it as AI at the end of the day, right? So, but the question is, what it takes to build a successful ML project, what it takes to build a successful ML model here in the industry. So in order to understand this, let's try to understand the typical workflow of creating a machine learning model. That's what exactly what is needed in a today's world. Okay, what do you mean by that? So again, we'll go back to the human beings, like way we consume a data. Just imagine this, folks. You consume a data in various different fashions, isn't it? Let's say we consume a data through our eyes, right? We do have two eyes, and we do consumer data through our nose, through smelling, and we do consumer data through hearing, through audio. We consumer data through a sense. If someone touch you, like obviously we know that someone is touching us. So we consume data in various different fashions, and similarly, a machine can able to consume data in many different types. Your data can be a picture, isn't it? Yes, it can be a JPEG, PNG, or whatever it is. Your data can be in a format of CSV files, or it can be a JSON document, or it can be a text document. Perfect. Your data can be many different types. That's awesome. We understand that. So the next step in creating the typical workflow of an ML model is what we call it as a data preparation. So what do you mean by data preparation? So data preparation is similar to what we do in our kitchens. What do we do in a kitchen? We cook a food, right? So what do? We go to market, right? We bring some vegetables, right? And we go to kitchen, we start cleaning it, and we started removing some unnecessary stuff which we don't need, and we start putting ingredients, masalas, and we start cooking the food. That is what exactly data preparation is all about. Yes. So what I'm trying to say, the real-time data that is coming from your customers, I mean, in a real-time data has a lot of garbages in it, lot of missing data in it. So we start doing a data preparation, we start doing data transformation, and we make sure the data is clean enough for teaching it to a machine. So then what happens next? So we do use IDEs. For example, it can be a Jupyter notebooks, it can be VS Code, or any kind of fun studios that we want to use in order to write a code. Obviously, this is where someone called data scientist comes into the picture. He writes a lot of code. He picks a machine that he needs. He mentions where is my data is coming from, everything in that particular script. It can be a Python, it can be R, or any different kind of a programming languages that we're talking about. So then what is next? So then we start executing that particular code. There we pick a machine that is nothing but where we pick a server in a cloud platform, and we start teaching the data that we have cleaned to this particular machine. So and once the machine understands all this data, it produces something called machine learning model. You know what we can do with that? You can able to ask of predictions. You can able to give an input, and you can able to generate a predictions. You can able to ask this machine to make decisions for the future. And let's say then we also test your ML model for a quality. If you're really satisfied with the quality of an ML model that is produced, so then what is the next step? So then we do use tools like model registries in order to register your ML model. So what do you mean by that? Let's say throughout the life cycle of this ML model, folks, you don't produce just one version of an ML model. You might produce multiple versions of an ML model. You might have version 1, version 2, version 3, or version N. You might have a number of ML models, obviously. Then what is next? Now, perfect. Now we have a best version of ML model that is ready. What is next? So now we need to pick the best version of ML model, and now we need to go ahead and start deploying it to the production, and where you can able to make some money, right, by reaching to your customers. So now let's say when we talk about the deployments perspective, each and every organizations has different strategies in deploying their ML models. Maybe I want to Dockerize my ML model. I want to deploy it on a Docker platform. Maybe I want to deploy it on a Kubernetes platform. Maybe I want to deploy it to the real-time endpoint. Maybe in my organization, I want to deploy my model to the batch prediction. Or in my organization, I want to deploy my ML model to edge devices like mobile phones, IoT devices, or to the serverless frameworks. So there are different strategies that the organization uses to deploy their ML models. So now let's say we Dockerize our ML model and we deploy it on a Docker platform. That's awesome. What is next? And here comes our fellow developers. I mean, someone who can able to build a beautiful web application and an Android application. So finally, where our end users can able to use an ML model that is deployed on a Docker platform, for example, right? So this is about the typical workflow of creating an ML model. What are the minimum requirements? We do understand that. So machine learning is all about study of an algorithm and mathematical models that your computers, the servers uses progressively improve on a specific task. Basically, it's all about teaching mathematical models. And once machine understands the complex mathematical models, we can ask this machine to make a predictions or take a decision for a future, obviously. And we do use various different programming languages. Obviously, our data scientist will be using Python or R or Go, or even a low code or no code services are available today for you to build a successful ML model. But still, the question remains same. What is MLOps? So we do understand what is data science, machine learning is all about. But what is MLOps? Still, you might have no idea. Right? So let's discuss that. So what is MLOps? MLOps stands for machine learning operations. Okay. So before we getting started with understanding what is MLOps, we need to understand what is the current state of machine learning in every organization. It's time to talk about some numbers. Okay. So what is happening in the world in every organization? What is the current state of their work? To understand this, here we go. We need to understand the current state of machine learning. To understand this, we need to do time travel right now. We are all getting into the spaceship and we are going back to the last decade. I'm just kidding. We are just looking into what's happened in the last decade. So I'm talking about maybe the early 2000, 2005. So the focus for every organization at that particular time, just imagine folks, every organization at that particular time, they had a lot of data sitting in their databases, but they have no idea what they want to do. So that's the point of a time they started hiring a lot of data engineers and data scientists, someone who can able to build an ML model. So the focus for every organization at that particular time, just to build an ML model. Remember this, operationalizing that ML models to production is not at all a plan at that particular time. I mean, for last 10 years ago, no organization is productionizing their ML models. And what is really happening today is really important. And today I'm talking about 2023. In the year of 2023, it's already 53% of organizations, they started moving their POCs to production. I mean, now they started moving their models to production. So what it takes to move their model to production, that's where the MLOps comes into picture. That's what exactly what we're going to discuss further. So it's going to take an average of 9 months to do that. And again, by end of 2024, folks, I'm not talking about next 5 years or 10 years here. By end of 2024, 75% of organizations will shift their models to production. That means there is a huge demand for the MLOps professionals here, because if you have a good model, it doesn't mean that your organization can get a success. No, definitely not. Until unless if you don't have an automation for that to deliver your ML models to production, you need some kind of automation. This automation is what we call it as MLOps. Okay, now what is MLOps again? Let's have a discussion. See, as I mentioned, MLOps stands for machine learning operations. It's a practice of collaboration and communication between the various stakeholders who is part of building this ML project. So we can say the collaboration and communication between data engineers, data scientists, operational professionals, ML engineers, MLOps engineers, or any lead people that you have in your organization. So collaboration and communication between them, it's called MLOps. So basically by applying these practices, you can able to increase the quality and you can able to simplify the management process of how you build, train, deploy your ML models to production. So as I mentioned, MLOps is all about the automation that we build in order to deploy your machine learning models or maybe deep learning models. I'm talking about deploying it to the large production environment, large scale production environment. Just imagine what ChatGPT is doing right now. So how could, let's say ChatGPT got released in end of 2022, and you might just imagine, so why didn't this ChatGPT got released last 5 years ago or last 3 years ago? Because last decade every organization was just experimenting and building a POCs, but they are not productionizing it. So today ChatGPT has a powerful pipelines, I'm talking about ML pipelines or MLOps pipelines, to deliver their models to production basically. So yes, let's talk about more about MLOps. Let's try to discuss about the MLOps motivation in a high level. As we discussed, MLOps is a discipline that sits intersection between the various domains. It can be the intersection of machine learning, intersection of data engineering, intersection of DevOps. What we get, the MLOps is all about. So let's say this intersection of these practices, let's say when they are coming together, it really drives a value how we build, deliver, and manage your machine learning models in the production. So when we're talking about this MLOps as a discipline, that's actually enabled by the core set of practices. Obviously, we have people's technology and process in a place, then only the MLOps practices can be implemented. Saying that, let's have a quick discussion about the MLOps challenges. What are the traditional challenges that we do face right now? So here we go, folks. In the process of creating and managing a machine learning workflows, we ran into a lot of different challenges. The challenges like data preparation has a lot of challenges, model training has a lot of challenges, model deployment has a lot of challenges. So not only we have this steps here, and there is a lot goes into stitching this different workflows together. I mean, we want our data preparation steps should be talking to model training step has to talk to our model deployment step. Let's say what we do in our data preparation step. Usually in a data preparation step, you might contain one to many tasks. For example, taking a raw data and eventually transforming that into, let's say, training data set, test data set, evaluation data set. So basically we have a raw data, we split it into multiple chunks. So when it comes to model training step, in model training step, you might have some additional steps inside your model training. So whether you are doing a single model training or you might be running multiple different experiments using hyperparameter optimization. So then only, like, let's say you cannot produce an ML model in a one single shot or one single iteration. You might playing with the hyperparameters, you keep on optimizing, you might go for 10 iterations, then only you can able to produce the best quality ML model. As a data scientist, you have a duty here to compare the different experiments, to log these experiments, to version these experiments. So then comes the model deployment step. So when it comes to, folks, your model deployment, you might have only one step in the workflow, or it could have many tasks underneath it. So it could be, let's say you want to deploy your ML model to dev environment, otherwise we call it as a staging environment. Maybe you want to deploy your ML model to the production environment, right? Or you might have some additional different controls inside, like a manual approval process of your ML model, something like that. So what I'm trying to say that when we are trying to deploy your ML model, this is what the strategy has to be followed. Let's say we don't want to directly deploy your model to production. Instead, we might be having a multiple environments. For example, let's say we might have something called a dev environment, and we might have something called a production environment, basically. So what is this dev or production? So production is something that is being consumed by your customers. That means your client, basically. So your client is actually using a model that is deployed to production, and we do have a dev environment, which is for your own internal team. So this is only for your team, for them to experiment. So what I'm trying to say that, let's say you're deploying your ML model. Initially, we deploy your ML model to dev or staging environment, and your internal team, it can be a data scientist or anyone, goes and validates the model that is deployed to a dev environment, and you make testing. And if you're really satisfied with the quality of a model, and then you deploy the same model to a production, and now your customers, I mean your clients, can able to enjoy the newest version of a model that you deployed to production. And again, when you're trying to deploy these models to production, you don't want to automatically deploy, and maybe we want to do a manual approval process. For example, let's say before you're deploying an ML model to dev, or before you're deploying ML model to production, maybe someone, a senior person in your team, maybe a senior data scientist, want to comes to your pipeline, he manually clicks the button to approve your ML model to be deployed to a dev environment. Again, the same process, clicking a button to deploy your ML model to the production environment. So There are a lot of different steps, isn't it? Yes. So there are a lot of different steps, lot of different dependencies has to work together basically to build this and build out something that provides, let's say, an iteration across the life cycle, and also, let's say, to provide end-to-end traceability to track the model that you have trained in a model development environment, and whether models to be deployed to production environment, to a staging environment, and what version of a model that you want to deploy. Everything has to be monitored. I mean, the traceability. And again, we need to monitor the complete infrastructure that you have built for building, training, and deploying your ML models in a production, basically. Saying that, let's try to understand, when we talk about MLOps, folks, we do also talk about one more term called DevOps. People think DevOps is exactly MLOps. No, definitely not. So DevOps, when we talk about DevOps, DevOps is for a software industry. Let's say there's a software developer, someone who makes a software, he writes a software. And then we have a DevOps engineer, someone who takes a software from a developer, he builds it, tests it, and let's say he delivers the software to a web server, for example. But when it comes to MLOps, here we do have a different stakeholders, different dependencies has to work together. So we do have data engineers, data analysts, we do have a data scientist, ML engineers, MLOps engineers, everyone, they are in a pipeline, and there are different flavors of tools that we do use it here. Okay, saying this, let's try to understand the MLOps challenges similar to DevOps. Yes, let's say challenges in operationalizing ML models has some common things when we compare with software production or DevOps. We do have some common things when it comes to DevOps. That means, yes, we do use traditional DevOps tools in MLOps. For example, like CI/CD practices or source version control tools are pretty much common in MLOps also. So we do use the traditional CI/CD tools, obviously, but you know that a lot of times the CI/CD tools are not necessarily built for machine learning separately. So in reality, what we might do, we use different combinations of tools and integrations. Sometimes that's purpose built for your data preparation, model training, and deployment. So all of this, can be complicated and challenging to stitch things together. And more complicated than this is there is no golden pipeline that you can able to follow actually. So what do you mean by golden pipeline? Let's say today, if I draft you guys an architecture, okay, you cannot just replicate this architecture for every organization, because the requirements for technical implementation for your organization can be different. Your organization structure can be different. The tools that you might want to integrate can really vary. So maybe you are an organization, you want to implement this pipelines on AWS or Azure or GCP, maybe on a multi-cloud, maybe on a combinations of cloud and open source, right? Okay, here we go. In order to understand the flavors of tools that we have in MLOps, let's try to discuss a very interesting story here. Okay, I hope you like stories, but this is going to be a tech story, for example. Okay, let's say we go back to early 2020. I'm talking about 2020. You know what happened in 2020? I hope you know. Okay, anyway, so let's say we are building an ML model for data owners, folks. Let's say we are building an ML model for data owners in order to predict amount of tickets they're going to sell or amount of revenue they're going to make. Okay, and let's say we didn't implemented any kind of an MLOps over there. Let's say we didn't care about MLOps, no automation at all. We build and trained and we deployed manually on some kind of a deployment platform. As a data scientist, you assured that this model is going to perfectly work fine for next 5 to 10 years. That's what the assurance from you. But the model did work, yes, but not for next 5 to 10 years. But your model did work for 3 months, but it failed. What is the reason? Why does your model fail? Just think about this. What happened in 2020? Obviously, the world has been hit by COVID at that particular time. So obviously, we are talking about an ML model which is deployed to a production for predicting the amount of tickets that has been produced. And what happened during the COVID? Due to COVID, no one went to theaters. Instead, we went back to our homes, isn't it? Obviously. So here, what you guys need to understand, the customer behaviors keep on changing. The people who are going for theaters now, they stopped gradually going for theaters, and instead of that, we locked down in our home. But there's another change does happen during COVID. Obviously, we didn't go for theaters, but still people started watching movies through OTTs. You know that OTTs skyrocketed at that particular time during COVID. We started watching more movies than before. And even after COVID today, there is a small niche of people who stop going for theaters because OTTs are there, we can watch movies anytime. So in case if you could have implemented model monitoring tools, consider that as a data scientist, in case if you could have implemented a model monitoring tools, you could have identified a drift in your models, what we're talking about data drift or concept drift or whatever the drift it is. So in case if you could have identified this drift, you could have grabbed a new data that is available with the latest behavior of your customers. You can have retrained it and your model would have been updated. You failed over that. Then comes what? Here I'm talking about folks, the customer behavior. Three kind of a customer behavior, isn't it? During COVID, I mean before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. That means you have a three different versions of your data. That means, let's say you need to have, when we talk about MLOps, we do also need to worry about versioning a data. Yes, there are data version control tools that are available today in the market like DVC, which stands for data version control tool, or something on AWS, something on Azure that we could able to use in order to version the data. So then comes, let's say, source version control tools. Obviously, your developers. I mean, so let's say here we are talking about especially a data scientist, a data engineers. They're going to write a lot of code. They're going to write a lot of code. And just imagine if you are any developer or any data scientist today who is here, how many times, just tell me in a chat window, how many times the code that you have written has been changed? Definitely, it can be 1,000 times you might have changed the code. Have you ever managed to implement, let's say, the source version control tools like GitHub or maybe any repositories in cloud platform, basically, in order to version your code? Definitely, when it comes to MLOps, this is a mandate practice. So then comes what? Let's say you have a code. Now we need to train an ML model. Okay, now we need to produce an ML model. And again, do you think we're going to produce only one model throughout the life cycle of that particular project? Are we going to produce multiple models? One model or multiple model? Definitely, it's not one model. You're going to produce a multiple versions of a ML models. And how do you think you're going to manage the versions of these ML models? So in order to manage these ML models, there are specific tools that are available in the market that is called model registries that we do use in order to register your ML models and version your ML models, as we discussed. And then comes, you need to deploy your ML model in some kind of a deployment platform, as we discussed. Maybe you want to deploy to Docker, Kubernetes, MLflow, Kubeflow, or something like that. And then comes model monitoring tools that helps you monitor your ML models, basically. So this is what it takes. This is what the flavors of tools looks like, but I'm going to introduce to all those tools further in our slide. Okay, so now the question is, that's fine. Now we got somewhere. What it takes to master those MLOps? What it takes to master? Let's have a discussion on that. So in order to understand how to master those MLOps, we need to understand the MLOps components. So in the process of building these pipelines, let's say we start from the use case discovery. So I mean, every organization should have a right use case, an ML use case, basically the problem that could be solved by machine learning or data science. Then comes our data engineering team. They build data pipelines to harvest the data. Then comes building a machine learning pipelines. Obviously, we need to have those automated pipelines. Each and every time, we don't want our data scientists or data engineers, someone to manually go to Jupyter notebooks to run their code. Instead of that, we want to build an automation here. So everything has to happen automatically. A data preparation, model training, and model deployment has to happen automatically. So then comes the model deployment to the production, and then comes production monitoring. I'm not talking about just monitoring your ML models. I'm talking about folks monitoring the complete infrastructure. Just remember this infrastructure that I discussed. So we start from a business understanding, obviously, use case identification. We identify the use case, the data understanding. So because if you don't have the proper data infrastructure, there's no point of talking about machine learning or data science or MLOps today. So unless if an organization doesn't have a data. So we do all this feasibility study, then we will get started with the data preparation. So once the data preparation is done, the data is clean enough, then we pick the right algorithm that we can able to use in order to do a model training. So then we do model experimentation. As I mentioned, in one iteration, you cannot produce the best quality of an ML model. You might do hyperparameter tuning, and you might go for 10 iterations to produce maybe the best quality of an ML model. So then comes, you evaluate the best quality of an ML model that you have produced, then you will be started thinking about model serving. I mean, you need to serve your ML model to production. where customers can able to consume that ML model. So now you want to deploy this ML model and where you want to implement an automation for the operations. So basically what I'm talking about, implementing a model monitoring tools in order to understand what's happening in your ML models or maybe the infrastructure, and learning a lessons from it and keep on optimizing on top of it. Perfect. And here we go. Here, this is a slide which lets you understand the end-to-end, the MLOps pipelines. So folks, just try to understand this. When it comes to the MLOps, there is something called a maturity level for every organization. It's called maturity level. Not every organization is going to implement the top level MLOps, what we call it as the MLOps maturity level. It starts from level 0 and it goes from level 1, level 2, blah, 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 level 4. The level 4 is the top notch, the top level architecture, which we call it as an automated retraining pipelines. So level 0 is where an existing organizations can be, if an organization is still doing model training, data preparation, model deployment manually without any automation, those are the organizations who might be in a level 1. And level 1 and level 0, what I'm talking about. So maybe an organizations who are in the level 1 or level 2, they might have some kind of an automation. They might have implemented some DevOps. And maybe if we go to level 2, this is where the MLOps automation comes into the picture. And this particular block diagram that we're going to discuss today, what we call it as the level 4 architecture. So obviously every organizations today, they are willing to move from an automated ML workflow to completely incorporated CI/CD practices. What do you mean by that? So the traditional way of building an ML model, obviously we take a data, we do data preparation, and we write a lot of code in the Jupyter notebooks. We train an ML model, we export an ML model that we have produced, and we go ahead and deploy it in some kind of a deployment platform. But there's a more automation that we have to implement over here. So let's discuss that in detail right now. So an incorporated CI/CD pipelines will look something like this. Let's say again we start from the ML use case identification. Obviously we don't want to discuss more about it because we know that every organization will have a right kind of a use case they want to get started. So now let's start our discussion from a data. We do understand that already data will have versions. We discussed about the story already. So once your customer behavior is changing, your data will changing. So this is where we need to integrate the tools like data version control tools, which is going to help you for versioning your data. Okay, perfect. So now we use tools like DVC, which stands for data version control tool for versioning your data. Then comes data pre-processing step. As part of a data pre-processing step, it can be our data engineers or data scientists. Here they write a Python code to prepare a data. And again, this code can change multiple times. Again, we need to integrate all this code that we have written in a code repositories. Source code repositories, it can be GitHub, for example, or something on AWS. We have code commit, or maybe in Azure repos or GCP repos. So then comes for model building step. Here comes our data scientist will be also writing some Python script to produce the best quality ML model. And again, this code has to be also versioned using source code repositories. So what is next? Now it's time to train your ML model. So now we are going to train our ML model. We're going to take a data, we're going to teach the data to a machine. As part of model training, we need to get a features and the data. Right? So for this, we're going to use something called a feature stores. What is this feature stores? Feature stores are basically the schema repositories. Those are not databases. Basically, we will be having a schema. For example, let's say I want to train an ML model to predict electricity bills. Let's say having the voltage and current as a feature with bill amounts will be more than enough for me to start training an ML model. I might have another feature called power. Let's say including of features called voltage, current, and bill amounts. This can be version 1 of my feature. Including voltage, current, bill, and power, this can be a version 2 of a features. Basically, the feature stores will have a schema of this particular features. You can able to fetch whatever the feature version that you want, and you can able to get started with the model training basically. So now we have a feature store. Let's say now we start training our ML model. That's great. What happens after that? We produce an ML model. What we do with that, obviously we produce ML model and model artifacts, lot of metadata along with the model. including your model and model artifacts has to be versioned. For this, we do use something called model registries. So there are a lot of model registries that's available outside in the market. For example, there's an open source tool called MLflow, which is a right tool. I mean, this is one of a tool that you need to have on your resumes. Basically, every stakeholder who is part of building ML projects, you must have MLflow as a tool on your resumes. And it can be SageMaker in AWS, they have a model registry. Vertex AI in GCP, they have a model registry. AML Studio on Azure, they have a model registry that you can able to use for your use cases. And then comes deployment phases. So now we pick the best version of a model. Let's consider that we have version 1, version 2, version 3. Let's decide that version 3 is really going good. So now we pick the version 3 of an ML model and we deploy it on some kind of a deployment platform as we discussed. Then we start integrating and build an automation for keep on monitoring your ML models in a production. And again, in case of any drift, and again, we automatically trigger this particular pipeline. So where again, the data preparation happens automatically, model training happens automatically, and model deployment happens automatically. So here we might produce version 4 of a ML model once your pipeline is being triggered. So each and every organizations follow different strategies for them. So maybe if there is any drift appears, maybe we trigger our pipeline to produce new version of a model, or maybe your organization might be getting a data once in every 6 months. You want to retrain your ML models. That means you can able to use schedulers for that. Okay, saying that, you can also implement a lot of feedback loops when it comes to this pipeline, what we call it as an automated quality gates. What is this quality gates? How it is really helpful for you? So this automated quality gates help you decide whether it's a best model that you're registering to model registry or not. So let's say we are training an ML model on a regression, for example. Let's say we highly depends on a metrics that we evaluate here. So consider that by using automated quality gates, you can able to decide whether it's a good model to be registered or not. For example, I will stick to the accuracy called MSE score. For example, if my MSE score is less than or equal to 7, that means if it is satisfied this particular condition, I might register my model to model registry. Otherwise, I might not register my model to model registry. So this is how you can able to use this automated quality gates. So then comes, you can also use this automated quality gates on a data preparation side, just to make sure you can able to use data checkpoints, basically to check whether your data is clean enough before you're getting started with the model training actually. Perfect. And most importantly, you need to have end-to-end traceability, starting from monitoring your ML models till monitoring the complete infrastructure, folks. There are different kind of tools that we will be exploring for this. Okay, perfect. Now you have a good idea of what it takes to build the successful MLOps pipelines. But now let's try to understand the different roles involved in MLOps. See, you might be a data scientist, you might be a data engineer, you might be a data analyst, a DevOps person. So what I will be doing here, so what is my role here? Let's have a discussion in that. So when we talk about MLOps, MLOps is not for just for data scientists itself. It's for any stakeholder who is part of the pipelines. And today, if you go and check your job description, you might be applying for data scientist, MLOps engineer, or maybe a data analyst or data engineer who is going to work for ML industry. This is MLOps skill sets are must-have skill sets on your resume. Probably you might have already faced with interviews, challenges already, I believe. Okay, so there are different roles are involved. Obviously, developing a successful machine learning project involves a variety of experience and requires extreme collaboration among a team, definitely. So obviously you need to have a right kind of a data and features to get started with building a successful ML project. And first of all, an organizations should have enough resources to hire the different kind of roles that we are talking about. So what do you mean by that? Let's say maybe an organization, MNCs definitely will have a different roles for different operations. For example, they might have a team of data scientists, team of data engineers, team of ML engineers. So team of MLOps engineers, team of operation peoples. But maybe if you're working with startups or mid-level organizations, they might be looking for the role, the combinations of, let's say, the data science and machine learning together. So the role structure is completely depends on an organization. But let's get some insights over here. Okay, so the first, let's get started with a data analyst. So what does our data analyst does? Obviously, our data analyst, they will be working closely with the product manager and business team. They will be driving an insights from the user data. So like they will be using a tools like SQL, Excel sheet, and range of other data visualization tools to get which features does make more sense for us to get started. So then comes our data engineers. Our data engineers make sure that infrastructure to collect and transform and pre-process the data and stored in a centralized repository. So they use obviously tools like ETL tools, Spark, Hadoop tools, and building data pipelines to harvest the data. And our data scientists will be also working with data version control tools that we discussed like DVC, for example, in order to version their data, working with feature stores that we discussed, basically to version their features, for example. Then comes our dear data scientist. Obviously, they will be building an ML model, which is going to become part of end product. Basically, our data scientists and data engineers, they should have definitely the in-depth knowledge on Python statistics probability, so they can able to build this ML model basically. So then comes a research or maybe applied scientist. So this, I mean, you cannot expect this kind of a roles in all the organization, especially an organization who is working on a cutting edge technologies like Amazon, Meta, or maybe Google. They might have this kind of a rules actually. So then comes ML engineers, otherwise a DevOps team. So we don't call it as a DevOps team when it comes to the ML industry or AI industry. We call it as ML engineers. So basically, ML engineers are basically deployment peoples. So their work will be overlapped with data engineers. They will be largely focusing on ML models and related infrastructures. So the duty for ML engineers to take a model from data scientist and go ahead and deploy it to the production, integrate it with CI/CD pipelines and deploy it to the productions basically. Okay, then comes our dear developers. We can say the last piece of a puzzle, arguably one of the most important one. Basically, they integrate everything with the main application. So that's where we need a backend developers, where we create a beautiful web applications or Android applications, which is going to be helpful for our end users basically to start generating insights. I mean, start invoking your ML models, which is in a production basically. So those are the different kind of roles. And again, apart from this, there are lead positions in MLOps. For example, we call it as MLOps lead engineer, MLOps architect, or MLOps specialist kind of a roles. Especially, let's say when you folks are having a more than 7+ years of experience, you can be DevOps engineer, or maybe a solution architect, or any software engineer can become an MLOps engineer. There are roles like MLOps engineer. So when it comes to the MLOps engineering roles, most of the time you don't build your ML models. You don't make your hands dirty, build your ML models, because you have your own fellow data scientists, someone who's going to build an ML model, especially those MLOps engineers. So they will be responsible for building an infrastructure, building a pipelines, managing this infrastructure basically. So especially when it comes to the folks who are in the leadership positions like MLOps lead peoples, so basically decides what kind of a tool to be used in these organizations, basically how does an architecture looks like. Okay, saying that, it's time to take a look of different flavors of tools that are available in the market today. Okay, so let's get started. Here are the tools for whatever the activity that you need to perform for data versioning, code versioning, for experiment tracking, model registries, model monitoring that we are talking about. Here are these suites of different tools that are available in the market. And one thing that we need to understand, the traditional steps in the process of building ML model. First, we take data, we collect the data, we label it. Then we do data exploration, I mean cleaning it. So then comes model training and evaluation. Then we finally deploy your ML model to production, obviously, right? So now, in order to perform all these activities, here are the range of tools that are available in the market. So for development IDEs, where our data engineers and data scientists going to use IDEs like Jupyter Notebooks, for example, or PyCharm, or whatever the Spider, whatever the IDEs that you would like for developing your code. And then we have a source version control tools like GitHub. So the place, the tools where we use it for versioning your code, definitely. It can be Bitbucket, or it can be the repositories on a cloud platform. So I didn't specify all the tools, but this is just to give a flavor of those tools, okay? So when it comes to AWS, they have something called code commit. Azure has Azure repos. Okay, so then comes, there are various different data labeling tools that are available outside. And then comes, when it comes to data exploration and data visualization tools, here we have tools like Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, Pipe, Plot LY. So those kind of tools. When it comes to the feature engineering, obviously, let's say if you're going to do it with through a program, I mean, to the source code, you can able to use sklearn as an algorithm. You can use commercial tools. Commercial tools are like subscription-based tools, feature tools. If you're looking for open source tool for feature engineering, so you can look forward for the very famous feature store tool. It's called Feast. Then comes model training step. When it comes to training your ML model, we need to have a right kind of an algorithm. So maybe you want to use TensorFlow, PyTorch, or sklearn, or XGBoost, whatever the algorithm that suits for your use case. So then, if you want to make a quick POC, if you want to build a quick POC out of it, we might go ahead and deploy your ML models on your own Jupyter notebooks, or you might deploy your ML model on platforms like Streamlit for your prototyping. So then comes model debugging and visualization. So for this, we do have a tools like open source tools like TensorBoard or Neptune.ai, which is again a commercial tool, weights and biases, which is again one of a commercial tool. For hyperparameter tuning, as I mentioned, you don't get the best version of a model in one iteration. You want to do multiple iterations. In that perspective, you go with multiple different kind of hyperparameter tuning, like Keras Tuner or Tune based tools. Then comes experiment tracking tool. For example, as a data scientist, you might train your ML model and you might do hyperparameter tuning job. So in each and every iteration, it produces various different logs, right, and metrics, and you need a kind of a platform where you can able to compare those logs and experiments for all the 10 iterations. So you can able to use tools like MLflow, can be a best tool for it, weights and biases, or TensorBoard, for example. So then comes model packing. So now you need to pack your ML model for deployments, right? Yeah. For that, you can again use tools like TensorFlow, PyTorch, or you can also use tools like MLflow, PentoML, or ONNX, or maybe the open source tools like Kubeflow is a framework that runs on Kubernetes. And then comes model serving. Let's say you want to serve your ML model to production. So one example can be SageMaker endpoints, or maybe in GCP Vertex AI endpoint, or maybe Azure ML endpoint. So then comes workflow orchestration. So here we have the orchestration where you can able to build the steps for you to do model training, model deployment. So here we have tools like Apache Airflow, or you can able to use a Kubeflow, a framework that runs on Kubernetes, ZenML, or maybe Metaflow, something like that. And there are a range of tools that are available for data versioning. Let's say you're looking for versioning your data. So DVC, the tool that I mentioned, our Neptune.ai, our Git has its own tool called Git LFS. So you can able to use these tools. And when it comes to model registry, I mentioned there is a very famous open source tool which is called MLflow. Every cloud platform has its own model registry, as I discussed. And for model monitoring, every cloud platform does offers various different SDKs for monitoring their model. And you can also use tools like Seldon or Fiddler. There is a very famous open source tool called Evidently AI. You can also use it for model monitoring. So then comes building a feature store. Do you remember that we discussed about importance of feature stores? You can use a commercial feature stores from an organization called Tecton, or you can look forward for your own feature stores on a cloud platform. Are looking for open source? That's awesome. So here we have the Feast, which is very famous open source tool that you could able to use it for building your own feature store. That's perfect. So now here is the question. So you folks might be having a range of different experience. I mean, so you might be having maybe starting from 2 years of experience to maximum to 18 and 20 years of experience. Folks might be joining this particular program. So saying that, how do you get to choose the right kind of a tool for your organization? So what are the things that we need to look into? The first is whether you're going to go for open source tools or closed source tools. Obviously, open source tools, we know that they're always free and they can be easily integrated with your MLOps tools. But only the difficulties of using open source tools can be if you have very few developers, and if they an open source tool that you have, If they have a very less support, less documentation, then it's going to be really a nightmare for you. So then comes a platform versus a specific tool. What we are talking about, let's say you're looking for a platform based tools. Otherwise, what I'm talking about, are you looking for a commercial tool? Are you looking for a cloud based tool? Let's say commercial tools, they are the subscription based platforms. I mean, you need to pay a monthly subscription for using that platforms. Are you going for the cloud based tools, like maybe you are trying to build your own infrastructure in the clouds like AWS or Azure or GCP? So that can be one thing. And then comes model and production environment monitoring. Let's say the tools that you're going to pick for your organization, you need to make sure that they have a right kind of monitoring tools, not just for monitoring your ML models, also to monitor the complete infrastructure that you have, making sure that your bugs are documented and addressed in the meantime. And again, making sure that MLOps team can able to catch up things like security and compliance fences in time to time. So then comes model templating and cataloging, the very important aspect that every MLOps person has to take care. So whether you could able to catalog or whether you could able to template and catalog your workflow. So what I'm trying to say here, so tomorrow you might be working with an organization where you might build MLOps pipelines, but that's not the only organization that you're going to work with. Maybe you might be working with multiple organizations tomorrow, and you don't want to reinvent a wheel again and again. So this is why when it comes to MLOps, templating and cataloging is very important, because once you could able to produce a success, you want to replicate that success again and again. That's the aspect. So here, if you have built a pipeline for an organization, let's say you're working on an NLP based project, and tomorrow there is a client who comes and you want to work with, I mean, yeah, they have a problem in computer vision and maybe LLMs even. So you should have templates and catalogs in such a way that you can able to replicate that template for any different organizations tomorrow. So then comes model training, tuning, and drift management. You should have your MLOps solutions offering an automation to be built for your pipeline. I mean, you don't want your data scientists to manually run the code here and manually go ahead and monitor your ML model. We need an automation. We need a pipelines in such a way that where we want an automated data preparation, automated model training, automated model deployment, automated model monitoring to be in place. And then comes pipeline management. And again, we do have multiple stakeholders. Multiple stakeholders has multiple responsibilities. So if something going wrong in pipelines, or maybe if I want to notify, maybe if I want to automatically trigger some updates to the stakeholders, okay, my data preparation job is over. Now I want to trigger an alert to our data engineer saying the data preparation is done. If something is going wrong in a CI/CD, maybe I need to trigger an alert to ML engineer saying, alerting him basically something is going wrong. So what we're talking about the pipeline management tools. Then comes collaboration and communication capability is very important, because MLOps is all about collaboration and communication here. So you need to have, let's say you need to look into the tool that supports documentations, basically documenting your commands, questions. And what if you could able to integrate project management tools with that, like Jira? What if you can able to integrate tools like Slack for communication, right? Okay, saying that, let's have a discussion about MLOps on top of a cloud. So why cloud? Why cloud? So obviously we are talking about the cloud platform. The cloud is the next big thing. So, and today we talk about MLOps and machine learning and data science. Most amount of our workloads today runs on top of this cloud platforms. I mean, most amount of the machine learning workloads runs on these three cloud platforms, what we're talking about: AWS, Azure, or GCP. Obviously, they are the major stakeholders in a market and where most of the workloads are running. And again, yes, when it comes to our MLOps specialization program, what we're talking about, we do cover multi-cloud. Yes, we do cover DevOps and MLOps tools from scratch on top of AWS, Azure, and GCP. Not just that, we do also cover open source tools along with that. So why multi-cloud and why open source? You might have a question. So because when it comes to today's organization, so they believe in multi-cloud. So there are organizations who run their pipelines on, DevOps pipelines on Azure, but they run their workloads on AWS. So there are organizations who might use cloud platforms like GCP, but still they use open source tools. Obviously, open source tools are free to use, and you can able to cut down some operational cost on top of it. So the organization has a different flavors, as I mentioned, to using these tools. So now let's get our insights about the kind of tools that we're going to cover in this particular program. So like we do cover Git based tools, like understanding how to use GitHub, how to work with cloud-based repositories like AWS Code Commit, GCP repositories, or Azure repositories. So then understanding what is CI/CD is. I might be mentioning CI/CD a couple of times. What is this CI and CD? Which stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment, what we call it as CI/CD. As we discussed, folks, this CI/CD is a practice that is followed in a DevOps industry. So basically in a software industry to produce the new version of a software. So let's try to understand it in this way. Let's say there is a software engineer and there is a DevOps pipeline. So software engineer makes a new feature. He develops a new feature and he commits a code to a code repository. Like basically he commits the changes to a code repository. And this pipeline that we are talking about, it is automated completely. And once the changes has been committed, your build will be started triggering. I mean, automatically your code will start building. Let's say you're trying to build a Java application. So the Java application will start building automatically. So once your build process is completed, so then it will notify your fellow developers saying that your build process is completed. So then comes testing. The testing also plays very important role when it comes to DevOps and when it comes to MLOps. So now we do all the kind of software testing. If all the test has been passed, again we notify all the test has been passed. So then finally we start delivering this built software, new version of a software to production. That's how it works. Maybe if I want to throw a very simple example, here we go. Consider that here we are in a production. So let's say you're going through an e-commerce website like Amazon, Flipkart, or any kind of an e-commerce website that we're talking about. Let's say there is a pay now button, which is in a green color. Each and every time when your customers want to buy some product, they hit on this green color button. So let's consider that your customers didn't like this green color button, so they want to go for a red color button. That's a suggestion. And here we go. We have our developer start writing a code. He's converting the green color button to red color button. And again, we do have AWS code pipelines where we have these pipelines are running. And here we have two different environments like the dev branch and production branch. So as I mentioned, we don't deploy our software directly to production. Instead, we deploy to the different environments and we ensure we test it is good. And if it is performing good, then only we deploy to the production, as I mentioned for MLOps. So here, initially the code is deployed to a dev environment. And once the code has been deployed to dev branch, and automatically your code pipelines will start building that software and it produces an artifacts, and we use these artifacts to deploy your code on a dev web server. So now your dev web server is serving the new button, which is in red color. And now your developers comes and validates this particular dev server, and he does all the testing saying that whether I can able to click this button, the functionality is working or not. So if you're satisfied with the testing, so in the next phase, you deploy the same button to your production. So now your production is also serving with a red color button. So now your customers, I mean your clients, can able to use the new version of a button that you have produced basically. So that's how it works. Again, we do follow the same kind of a CI/CD practices when it comes to MLOps. So your MLOps pipeline might look like this. For example, let's say again we have a source code repository. Here we might have our data engineers or data scientists, someone who makes changes to the code, or he writes a code and he publishes the code to a code repository. So once the code is published to your code repository, your MLOps pipelines could able to recognize the code change. Automatically it start pulling the code, it will start doing a feature engineering. So what we call it as data preparation. So once your data preparation is done, your model training happens automatically. So once your model training is done, then we do model evaluation. So we evaluate your ML model, generate as many metrics that we want. So then we do have automated quality gate, as we discussed, otherwise we call it as a condition step. Here is a condition where I check, let's say for example, if my MSE score is less than or equal to 7, if this condition has been passed, then only I register my ML model to model registry. Otherwise, I won't register my model to model registry. So this is how it works. So now let's consider that I have different versions of ML models here. Let's say I picked the best version of a model. I believe it's a version 3. So now I start building this. Maybe I want to Dockerize this ML model. I build it through the CI/CD pipelines. I Dockerize it. Now I want to deploy this ML model to dev environment first. And once your model has been deployed to a dev environment, here comes our data scientist or any senior person comes and validates your ML model. If all the tests has been passed, if you're satisfied, then you give an approval to deploy your ML model to production. So now your production server is serving the model that is running in a production environment. And again, you implement a model monitoring tools to monitor in case of any kind of a drifts, data drift or concept drift or biases in your data. And automatically, if something goes wrong, your pipelines will send a trigger to the MLOps pipelines that we have. So where again, everything starts running automatically. So again, your data preparation happens, model training happens, model evaluation and model registration. Again, we produce the version 4 of your ML model. And again, the new version of ML model will be redeployed. So that's how the cycle runs. So when it comes to the CI/CD pipelines, we're going to explore the range of CI/CD pipelines in this particular program, starting from AWS code pipelines, which is integrated with code commit, code build, code deploy. When it comes to GCP, we'll be exploring code build, or maybe the cloud source repositories, for example, our cloud run, our cloud deploy. When it comes to Azure, we'll be exploring the complete DevOps suite of Azure, like Azure pipelines, Azure repos, Azure boards, Azure artifacts, or Azure test plans. Saying that, we do also cover a lot of other open source tools, which is really mandate for any MLOps professionals. We do cover Dockers from scratch, understanding how to build the Docker image, how to Dockerize your ML models, how to deploy it on a Docker platform, working with Kubernetes, understanding Kubernetes from scratch, deploying your ML models to Kubernetes, and working with any one of a cloud-based Kubernetes service, like it can be Amazon-based, EKS or Azure-based AKS, which stands for Azure Kubernetes Service. When it comes to GCP, we have Google Kubernetes Service. Then comes other model management tools, as we discussed. We will be exploring MLflow from scratch, understanding how to deploy the MLflow infrastructure, building, training, and deployment of your models. And again, exploring data version control tools like DVC or maybe Git large files. So then comes exploring feature stores. As I discussed, the tools for versioning your features. We'll be exploring all the cloud-based feature stores on SageMaker, Vertex AI, Databricks, Tekton, Feast, or maybe HubSpot, are building your own open source feature stores by using DynamoDB and S3. So then comes cloud ML services. We will be covering MLOps, at least the level 4 architecture, as we discussed, the level 4 maturity level on every cloud. At least one project will be built on Amazon SageMaker Studio, Vertex AI, or Azure Machine Learning Studio. And again, if you're an organization is completely open source, you don't want to use a cloud at all, maybe you want to use tools like Kubeflow. Yes, we do cover Kubeflow from scratch, understanding how to deploy an infrastructure, how to build, try and deploy your ML models. So then comes model monitoring. We will be covering all the SDKs, let's say, that comes with different platforms, let's say, in order to monitor your ML models, and using open source tools like Evidently AI in order to monitor your ML models. And we do also cover the AutoML tools that are basically the commercial tools like Isgazio, Domino Data Labs, Olahai, and weights and biases. So then comes post-deployment challenges. See what happens, what kind of a challenges that we do face after deploying your ML models. So the challenges related to software engineering and challenges related to ML related are maybe the challenges that you face when you're deploying your ML models to edge devices like mobile phones or IoT devices. Saying that, here we go. What we're going to do next. So it's time for us to enjoy the real-time demo that I've arranged on top of AWS. So now I'm going to walk you through, guys, the demo that I have built, the end-to-end MLOps pipeline that I've built on top of Amazon SageMaker. So please make sure you stay till end of this particular program. So still we have around 40 minutes to go. So only if you stay till end of this webinar, you can able to enjoy the live demo that I'm going to provide. You can able to enjoy the free ebooks. And again, as I mentioned, the next 5 to 10 years, how it might look like for your future in MLOps. So let's get started the live demo. So I'm going to go to my SageMaker console, so where I'm going to show you what I have done for you folks. Okay, so let's get started. Here is my SageMaker pipelines basically. Okay, so now here I have a pipeline that I've built. So you could able to see that I am in a repository. So where I have a code has been versioned in some kind of a code repository. So here we do use AWS code commit as a code repository. So as of right now, I do have a two code repositories, one for model building, another one is for model deployment. So I have one separate repository for model deployment and model build. And you could able to see the sections, repositories, pipelines, experiments, model groups, endpoints, and settings. So pipelines is a place where I have my ML pipelines are running. Experiments is a place where I log all the experiments, the model training experiments. Model groups are model registries. As I'm talking about, endpoints is a place where I've deployed my ML models. So let's get started with the pipeline. I have one pipeline. Let me go inside. So now you could able to see that my pipeline has got successfully executed. I mean, my pipeline got executed successfully. Let's say if your pipeline is executing multiple times, that means you'll be having a multiple logs or multiple rows. That means for every execution, you might have a new ML model that is being created. So now let me go to this pipeline that I've created. Let me just get into this. So here, the pipeline that I've built is basically solving a problem of an abalone use case. So what is this abalone use case? The kind of a model that I've built is for an abalone data set. So what is this abalone data set? So abalone is some kind of a seafood. Basically, it's a sea snail which comes inside this shells. It will looks like a shell, and inside a shell there will be a meat that can be edible for us. So basically, we are trying to build an ML model to predict an age of an abalone. So why it is really important? Because the age of an depends on the age of an abalone. The price is being decided in the market basically. So we are building this ML model to predict an age of an abalone. So this is how the pipeline will look like. So the first step in a pipeline is pre-processing an abalone data. So that's the first step. If I click on this particular pipeline, let's say we have an input and output. Let's go to our output. So as part of our output, you should be able to notice, what do you think we do in a data preparation? So all we do, we take a data, we eventually transform the data into training data, validation data, or maybe the test data set. So and we store this data into a specific storage platform in a cloud platform. We call it as Amazon S3. And again, perfect. So now our data preparation is done. The next step in our pipeline is training an abalone model. So once I click on train an abalone model, so in this particular block, this is where my model training gets placed. So we start training our ML model. And during the model training process, we do evaluate various different metrics, and you should be able to notice that on my training data set, my RMSE score is 1.6. On validation data, my RMSE score is 2.1. So that means the root mean square error value is the kind of a metrics that we use in order to decide whether my model training has been good or not. And here is the actual ML model. So when it comes to Amazon SageMaker exports a model to S3 bucket, which is a storage platform, in a format of a tar file. So this is a format of your ML model. Perfect, right? So now you have an access to the ML model that we have trained. The next block in our pipeline is evaluating your ML model. So now we take our ML model, we start evaluating it. So now if I go to my evaluation block, here we evaluate our ML model with a test data that we have. And here we generate various different metrics and we export that metrics to S3 bucket. So here we have a metrics that we can able to relay on basically to deploy our ML model to production. So then if I go back to the next block, here is our quality gate. If you folks remember that, I discussed about a quality gate, which is going to helpful for us to decide, can I able to deploy this ML model to production or not? So basically the decision maker, right? So now if I go back to the slide, which we discussed, so here is our quality gate. So I'm talking about this condition step, which is going to help us to decide whether it's the right model to be deployed or not. Here we call it as check MSE abalone evaluation. So basically, in case here is a condition where I'm trying to put, if my MSE score is less than or equal to 7, then it's going to register your ML model to model registry. If it is true, yes, it throws an output as a true. So now if it is true, now I register my ML model to my model registry. So here you can actually check the actual score of MSc, which is 4.93. So now you know that 4.93 is less than or equal to 7. That means the condition is true. So now that means your model will be registered to your model registry. So that's what happened. And now if I go back to my model groups, here you should able to find my model group. If I go inside that model group, you should able to notice that I have a first version of a ML model, which is not yet deployed. It is actually waiting for my approval to be deployed to production. So in order to approve this ML model, I need to do pretty much simple thing. Click on a first version of an ML model, and I go to actions on the top right corner. I click the update status. I change the status from pending to approved, and here I can able to type some commands saying that approved, and I just simply click save and update. So this makes an model to be deployed to a dev environment. So as I mentioned, the model is getting deployed to dev environment, not to production. I will be deploying a model to production in few more minutes. If you want to know how to deploy this model to production, please make sure you stay till end of this particular program so I can able to show you. So now your model is getting deployed to a dev environment, otherwise a staging environment. You can able to check this model deployment in this endpoint section. It might take a few minutes to reflect here, so we'll wait for it to reflect. In the meantime, let's get back to our slides and we'll discuss further things, and then we will come back. Okay, saying that, so now let's get started with the next topic that we need to discuss, the MLOps job opportunities. How does your future might looks like? So once you have a skill sets on your MLOps, so who should learn MLOps or who should be part of MLOps? So any stakeholders who is part of building ML project, let's say you can be a data scientist or you can be a data engineer or a data analyst who is working for or going to work for AI industry. You might be a research or applied scientist. You might be ML engineer, DevOps engineer, aspiring MLOps professional or enthusiast, machine learning professional who want to learn how to deploy your ML model to production, or you're looking for learning Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, Azure, GCP, DVC, Feast, ML Flow for MLOps, you're the best person. And any individual person with the interest of data and AI industry can be the best person to get started with this particular program. And here is the numbers, pretty much interesting numbers outside. So if you see an average salary for today's data scientist, I'm talking about data scientists with data science skill sets, it'll start from 14 to 18 lakhs in India. And again, if someone who's going to have an MLOps skill sets on top of their resume, according to 6figr.com, an average salary for professionals in India, it starts from 23.1 lakhs in India. And when it comes to US, it starts from, let's say, 94 K dollars basically. So it's really huge numbers, and again, a lot of opportunities considering the data that we discussed about the what is happening in a current state of machine learning in every organization. And again, the job vacancy for machine learning or AI domain is skyrocketed today. How do I validate this? Pretty much simple. So today, if we talk about, let's say, the various trending technologies, let's say if you folks want to remember the two important things that happened in this last 10 years, or maybe in this particular last 50 years that you want to remember, there are two things. One is pandemic, which happened, COVID, and the next thing is the revolution in AI. So these are the two things that we want to talk about for the last 50 years, or maybe for the next 50 years, maybe for the last 10 years, maybe the revolution in AI. Today, if you go for any tech blog or maybe anything that you're going to read in a LinkedIn or maybe any tech profiles that you have, so definitely you talk about AI. So in some form, every organization want to implement AI to their organization. It can be a tech-based industry or non-tech-based industry. In some fashion, they want to integrate AI to their organizations. So that's the power of AI, and that's the quick validation of what does the opportunities might look like for you folks. Okay, and again, how quickly you want to get into the market is really important, because here is a very beautiful slide which explains the importance of that. Okay, so let's talk about how drones took over the market in just 10 years, right? So let's say before 10 years, I'm talking about the year 2009. at that particular time, let's say a news reporter who is flying in a chopper just to shoot a news report, a news, or it can be a movie maker, maybe the movie director is traveling in a chopper basically to shot a single movie. So this particular industry got just changed in next 10 years in within 2019. See, that's that again, when it comes to the speed of transformation that's happening in AI, it's more than this particular example that I'm talking about. It's not in just 10 years. Each and every day, there's a new AI tool is being introduced by a lot of cloud platforms or individual players that we're talking about. So it's time to upgrade yourself, because now it's a market. Because considering the data that we discussed, what is the current state of machine learning that's happening in every organization? Already 53% of organizations are started converting their POCs into production. That means they need the professionals who can able to build the MLOps pipelines for their organizations to deliver their models to production. So how do we get started? Here comes our the MLOps specialization program, which is going to start from January 6th. Not long. We are starting this particular program. Our new batch is starting from January. And again, you might be a candidate joining from various points of the world, and we do have time zones set in a way it supports all the time zones. You might be the candidate joining from India. So we will be having this training starting from January 6th on every weekend. I'm talking about every Saturday and Sunday, 7 p.m. IST to 11 p.m. IST every Saturday and Sunday. And let's say you're joining from EST time zone every Saturday, Sunday, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Otherwise, you might be a candidate joining from CET time zone. You will be joining this particular programs from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. every Saturday, Sunday. Let's try to understand the very interesting part, the structure of our program. Here we go. So this program structured in a way, every weekend we will be having a live hands-on sessions. What do you mean by that? So keep it a note. This is not a program. This is not a webinar or a seminar where you just come and listen and go. It's a completely the live hands-on sessions. I mean, 85% of a curriculum that we do have, it's completely hands-on. That means 85% of the times you'll be busy building a lot of projects. And again, every Monday you'll be receiving an access to the recordings of the live sessions that you attended, and every weekdays, it can be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, we'll be having a debugging sessions, which are optional sessions to attend. So what do you mean by that? So during a live sessions, definitely you will be having, maybe you might face some errors or bugs that you couldn't resolve it during a live sessions. You can able to join a debugging session as per your convenience, and so where I will be there, and you can able to share your screen where I will be assisting you to fix the problem. So that's how it works. So when it comes to the MLOps specialization program, what we call it as a 360-degree view of MLOps. What do you mean by that? So we do cover 3 different cloud platforms, that is AWS, Azure, GCP, and open source tools. And again, this is a program for next 2 months. Basically, it's a 7 to 8 weekends program. It's going to start from January 6th and it's going to last till February. Basically, we're looking for 7 to 8 weekends totally. So saying that, there are almost 70 to 80 hours program it is. There are more than 50 plus live hands-on projects. There are more than 10 plus real-time projects. As I mentioned, at least one level 4 architecture project will be built on every cloud platform. At least one hands-on project on every open source tools that we're talking about: Dockers, Kubernetes, MLflow, Kubeflow, and such other open source tools that we discuss. It can be DVC, for example, and one-on-one debugging sessions. Okay, saying that, so before we getting started with a further demo, we'll have a quickly discuss about the pricing structure that we do have. So then we will discuss about further informations. Okay, so now let's get started. So we do have 3 different pricing plans. We're going to discuss about the pricing plans for both INR and USD. But before that, I'm not going to discuss about the price. We'll go back and we will, you know that we are actually deploying our ML model to dev environment. We'll have a take it a look and we will come back immediately. Here we go. You can able to observe some new changes in this particular console. You should be able to see that we are in an endpoint console, folks. So previously there is no endpoint. So right now, what is this endpoint? Is nothing but this is where our model is deployed to production basically. And you could able to see this model which says MLOps demo Jan staging, which is nothing but the model that is deployed to production, and which says in service. Now I'm going to show you how to invoke this ML model which is running in a production. So for this, I'm going to go to my notebooks. So we do have a simple script that I'm going to use in order to invoke this ML model to which is deployed in a dev environment. So now here is my Jupyter notebooks where I'm running a pretty much very simple script, which is going to be helpful for me to invoke this ML model. So here's a script. I'm going to change my endpoint name in this Python script. Okay, so basically this script is organized to contact the model that is running on a virtual machine on AWS, and it's going to input the test data set with the name of abalone.single.test. So this will have a features, but there is no age column. So basically by invoking this ML model, I'm going to pass this payload to my ML model, and if I start running it, it's going to invoke and it's going to mention what is the age of an abalone. You should be able to get the age. So here it says 10.3 is an age of an actual abalone. So by having this age, now the farmer can able to decide what is the price for this particular abalone in a market, basically. So this is how it works. So now I have showed you how to invoke your ML model in a dev, but in the next step, I'm going to show you how to deploy this ML model to production. To know that, you need to stay till end of this particular program. So now let's have a quick discussion about the pricing structure. Here we go. So when it comes to the pricing structure for our MLOps specialization program, we do have 3 different pricing plans, not 1, yes 3. So when it comes to the pricing structure, we do have a plans called advanced plan, basic plan, advanced plan, or advanced plus plan. So the topmost plan, what we call it as an advanced plus, it starts from 47,999, and then we have advanced plan which starts from 41,999. So then we have a basic plan which starts from 39,999. Advanced plus, which is the topmost plan, which is starting from 47,999, advanced plan 41,999, and a basic plan 39,999. But why? You might ask a question. So why we do have 3 different pricing structures? What's the difference? We have interesting features here. Let's have a discussion quickly. Let's say you are a candidate. Let's say you are a folk who is just interested in upskilling. Okay, so then you can go for a basic plan. So basic plan is just designed for upskilling yourself. You can able to attend live sessions, you can able to attend you can able to get an access to the recordings, and you can able to attend the debugging sessions and other support. So this is what exactly the basic plan is. But if you go to the other plans, usually a working professionals, they prefer advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. So everything in basic is included in advanced and advanced plus. Obviously you can attend live sessions, access to recordings, and debugging sessions is also included in all the 3 plans. But what's the difference here? Here comes the important difference. When it comes to advanced plan, you get resume preparation with 6 months of technical job support with bonus reattendance opportunity. So what is this bonus reattendance opportunity anyway? So bonus reattendance opportunity is nothing but by signing up once, you can able to take this program twice. Let's say you are signing up for January batch, which is going to happen on 6th of January. Even after you completing January batch, you can retake this particular program completely for free in next batch, which is going to happen in April. Consider that. So 2 batches in one sign up. So then comes 6 months of technical job support with resume preparation. So here we play a very important role because most of the candidates want to upskill themselves and they want to go and get the better job outside. So there are 2 phases, folks, when it comes to this particular program. This is not just for providing a skill for you. Skill development is the first phase. Second phase is job support. So how do we help them? So basically we can able to categorize the participants into 2 categories. Obviously, most of the candidates want to upskill themselves and they want to go and find a better job outside. So how do we help those people here? So first thing is we help them optimizing their resumes. So basically, let's say you might be want to apply for data science roles. Maybe you're looking into let's say MLOps engineer, or maybe you want to looking into the lead positions in MLOps. So how does your resume should look like? So we do help you guys bias your resume towards that. If someone is going to check your resume, it should say you are an MLOps professional, something like that. So then comes when it comes to resume preparation, it's not just optimizing your resumes. It can be any job portals, LinkedIn, Naukri, or maybe Indeed, or any job portals that you have, just to make sure that you get some quality calls. That's the first thing. And second thing, when it comes to 6 months of technical job support, let's say here, let's say, for example, let's say you got selected for a technical round. So before you going and attending any technical round of an interview, we ask for a discussion. We ask you just bring your job description. Let's sit for a quick discussion and we'll go through each and every line of that particular job description. We'll try to provide your insights regarding what kind of a questions they're going to ask, how they're going to face that interview, and maybe let's say you have mentioned some of the projects that you have built during this particular program. So how are you going to deliver stories about it? So those kind of a discussions basically. So this is a one category. Another category can be, let's say you are a professional who is already working in a job. Let's say you need some assistance and let's say you need some documentation, you need some sample code, and you need some consulting. Are you working on your own projects? You need some assistance, bug fixing. We'd also help you guys. So this is about 6 months of technical job support, how it's been used by different participants. When it comes to our topmost plan, that is Advanced Plus, everything in Advanced is included. But instead of that, instead of getting 6 months of job support, you get 1 year of job support. Along with that, you get instant access to the recordings. We do have a feature called instant access. What do you mean by that? You don't want to wait till January to get started with this particular program. You can able to get started with this particular program in next 24 hours. Yes, that's true. That means, let's say if you complete your registration, you get access to the recordings in the next 24 hours. That means you can get started with these recordings with the support. And once 6th of January comes into the picture, you can start attending the live sessions along with me. Let's say if you want to know the pricing in USD, let's say an Advanced Plus plan will be costing you $699. When it comes to Advanced plan, it will be $599. When it comes to Basic plan, it will be $549. And obviously, so we are in the end of this year, we're celebrating Christmas and a new year. It won't be surprising without a surprise here, right? So we do have some the first week campaign offer. Usually when we are running a campaign for a new batch, for first week, we give out some offers. It is only for first 10 registrations. We already have registration started a week ago, and here is our offer called free upgradation offer till 18th of December. So what is this free upgradation offer that I'm talking about? So till 18th of December. So usually, as we discussed, a working professionals really interest to get into Advanced plan or Advanced Plus plan. Let's say you are a folks, like let's say you're looking into Advanced plan. Don't register for Advanced plan. So when it comes to Advanced plan, let's say it is cost you $41,999. All you need to do, go ahead and register for let's say the basic plan, which is costing $39,999, and we will be upgrading you to Advanced plan completely for free. So this is called a free upgradation. So all you need to do, register for basic, you get Advanced. In the same fashion, let's say you'll be saving around 2,000 rupees. Obviously the difference is around 2,000 rupees, and so this is only for first time registrations strictly until 18th of December. But we don't know whether we'll have this offer till 18th of December before we get 10 registrations already, for example. Similarly, let's say you're looking for Advanced Plus plan. There is a topmost plan where you can able to get started with this particular program immediately. Go ahead and register for an Advanced plan, which is costing $41,999. We will be upgrading you to Advanced Plus plan completely for free. That means you'll be saving around 6,000 rupees over there. So this offer applies for both USD and INR payments basically. So, and again, for first time registrations till not September here, I'm really sorry about the date. So till December 18th. Yeah. So till December 18th, you can able to climb this particular offers. And why do you think, let's say the Citron Technologies are the best people for you to conduct this particular program? This is the 7th batch that we are successfully conducting this particular for this year. As I mentioned, you can go ahead and check out our website. We've been supported by Government of India, incubated in PhD STEP, funded by Nidhi EIR, and been awarded with various different industries. We've been working with a lot of different clients like Royal Bank of Scotland, where we done corporate trainings, work with Minion Labs out of Bangalore. We represent ourselves in various international stages. And I would suggest you folks to check out our testimonials from our previous batch participants, because our participants talks about our particular program. So yeah, and you can also check this testimonials. I would be sharing a PDF where you can able to check the feedbacks, the testimonials from our candidates. And here it's time to discuss the curriculum. that we are offering. So pretty much interesting curriculum that we do have. Let's have a quick discussion about the curriculum. So then I will be sharing you an access to ebooks. Only if you stay till end of this particular session, you can able to download those free ebooks. Okay. So this is a PDF that I'm going to share where everything is included, registration links, the testimonials, the curriculum, everything. So let's get started. So let's dive in to the curriculum directly. So totally we do have 13 modules, starting from introduction to MLOps till post deployment challenges. We do have totally 13 modules. Let's get started. So the first thing, module number 1, introduction to MLOps actually. So here we dive into the various different aspects of MLOps. I mean, we'll be introducing to the world of MLOps and tools. So here we'll be discussing about the challenges, the motivation, or maybe the maturity levels what you're discussing about, and discussing about what is the real difference between, let's say, DevOps, AI ops, model ops, or maybe GitOps. And again, specifically here we'll be discussing about the production case studies. I mean, how does an organization has implemented the MLOps pipelines on top of AWS or Azure or GCP, right? And when it comes to module number 2, here we'll be discussing about the maturity levels as I discussed, and again we'll be discussing about in detail the MLOps stages. For example, what are the different versionings we do, what are the different testings we do, how do we implement CI/CD pipelines, what is this reproducibility, deployment, and monitoring. And very interesting part is the MLOps architectures. So here we discuss the detailed architectures about the open source tools, like we do cover Kubeflow, yes, Apache Airflow, MLflow, Metaflow, Kedro, ZenML, MLrun, or CML. So then comes architectures on top of a cloud platform. Let's say if you're looking forward to implement the complete MLOps pipeline on top of AWS or Azure GCP. Then comes introduction to, module number 3, introduction to Git. So this is where we'll be getting started with the Git with hands-on. So that means this complete module will be covered with hands-on projects. We'll be understanding how to work with any kind of a source code repository. It can be GitHub or AWS or Azure or GCP or any kind of a source code repositories. So then comes module number 4. Here we'll be getting started with the CI/CD pipelines, understanding how CI/CD pipelines work on every cloud platform. So we'll be covering all the DevOps tools for MLOps. We'll be covering all the DevOps tools on AWS like code commit, code pipelines, code builder, code deploy, and using these pipelines to build a complete end-to-end DevOps pipelines on top of it. So then comes GCP, covering all the DevOps tools on GCP, building one DevOps pipeline on top of GCP. Similarly, covering the complete Azure DevOps suite and covering one hands-on project end-to-end DevOps pipeline on Azure. So then comes module number 5. This is where we cover Dockers and Kubernetes from scratch, understanding how to Dockerize your ML model, how to deploy it, how to deploy ML model on a Kubernetes platform. So at least one project will be built on every open source tool, understanding how to deploy your ML model to Docker container, understanding the complete Kubernetes, understanding what is node, control plane, API server, the pods, everything, and understanding how to deploy the Kubernetes infrastructure and deploying ML models on a Kubernetes clusters. So then comes module number 6, deployment strategies for Kubernetes. So here we pick one of a cloud, it can be AWS or Azure or GCP, to deploy the same ML model that we are Dockerized to the cloud-based Kubernetes service. Then comes module number 7. So here we cover introduction to model management tools. So here again, we dive into data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, model registries, and model monitoring tools. Especially here, we'll be covering MLflow, which is very famous, a must-have tool in your resume. So we do cover MLflow from scratch, understanding how to deploy the MLflow stack or an infrastructure on a cloud, and how to build, try and deploy your models through MLflow stack. Then again, covering DVC from scratch, understanding how to use DVC and performing hands-on on top of DVC to version your data, integrating to the production systems. So then comes module number 8. Here we do cover feature stores, as we discussed. We'll be understanding all the various feature stores that's outside, like SageMaker feature store, Vertex AI feature store, and other feature stores. And we'll be using open source feature store called Feast to build online and offline feature store. So then comes module number 9, a very important module, the Cloud ML Service 101. So here we'll be covering 3 different clouds when it comes to AWS, Amazon SageMaker, to build end-to-end MLOps pipelines. So these projects are really huge. At least it takes one complete weekend to cover. Then comes, when it comes to GCP, we'll be covering Vertex AI to build end-to-end MLOps pipeline project. And when it comes to Azure, Azure has the latest architecture, what we call it as MLOps version 2 architecture for building end-to-end MLOps pipelines. Then comes module number 10. Here we do cover Kubeflow, understanding how to deploy the Kubeflow infrastructure and building, training, and deploying your ML models to Kubeflow. Then module number 11, we do have a separate module for model monitoring. So here we cover all the different SDKs that offered by cloud platforms, and then picking one of a cloud and doing a hands-on for how to monitor an ML model. So then comes the module number 12. We do also cover the commercial tools as we discussed, but we'll be providing at least one demo on any one of the platform. Then comes module number 13, the final module, that is post-deployment challenges. After deploying ML model, what are the things to be taken care, like things like challenges related to software engineering, challenges related to ML engineering. And again, we do have a hands-on. Here we'll be using open source tool called Evidently AI, very famous open source tool for monitoring your ML model to the production. And if you further scroll down in this particular slide, you can able to get the skills that we're going to master here and the tools that we do cover in this particular program actually. And you can able to further scroll down, you can get the same pricing structure informations. And if you further scroll down, you'll get the detailed informations of each and every features. And if you further scroll down, you can able to listen to the testimonials that we do have here, which is attended and which has been attended, the candidates who have gained the success in their career. You can also listen to this testimonials and you can able to take an action accordingly. Perfect. And yeah, it's time for you folks to share the details of this particular program. So now let me just quickly share the details. I will also open the session for Q&A. So here we go. I'm going to share this particular links in your chat window. The first link is for registration. The second link where you can able to download this curriculum, the PDF that I'm showing. And the third link where you can able to download this free ebooks. And here is my contact number that you can able to use to contact me if you have any further questions that you want to discuss. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share a link in the chat window. I have already shared it. So once you click on the registration link, you'll be redirected to a platform which will look like this. You'll be redirected to a website called mlops.cyfrontech.com, which is our website. And here you can able to get the complete details about this particular program. And you can able to get the complete information about all the curriculum that we do cover, the tools, and you can also watch the demo here, the same demo that we're conducting. And you can also contact the trainer. That means it's me. I will be a trainer for this particular program. And you can also check other testimonials over here, everything. All you need to do, just go ahead and click on register now button and just fill in your informations. Okay, so it's Sharath, and just put in your phone number. And so then you'll be redirected to the registration platform, and then you can start picking up the pricing plan that actually fits for you. Let's say you're looking for, let's say you're an Indian participant, you can able to pick a plan, whether you're interested in basic plan or advanced plan, you can able to get the more details here. Or let's say if you're an international participant, you can also pick the pricing in USD over here, and you can start registering actually, right? So yeah, perfect. So now I will be opening a session for Q&A. Yes, perfect. So if you have any questions, you can start unmuting your mic and we can have a detailed conversation right now. Or if you have any questions to be asked, you can also use your chat window to mention your questions actually. Yeah, so we do have one more demo, which I want to show you how to deploy this ML model to production. I will be showing it in a few minutes after answering a few of your questions. So go ahead, unmute your mic and let's talk.
So Sharath, this is Sai Kumar here.
Hey, hi. So before we proceeding with the conversation, just mention your name, what kind of a work that you do, and let's have a question. So yeah, please, sir, can you go ahead?
Yeah, my name is Sai Kumar and I work as a lead data analyst. I have around
Perfect.
16
Go ahead,
plus
sir.
years of experience. So,
Perfect.
so my question is, once we complete this course, will we be in a position or will we have the conviction to complete any one of the certifications, let's say Azure certification or AWS certification?
So definitely, yes. When it comes to, let's say, the certification programs that you're talking about, the tools that we do cover here, it's also part of that particular certification, but not in the MLOps perspective, but when any cloud-based certification programs that you're talking about, it can be AWS ML Speciality or Azure. It is not part of MLOps, but as part of a tool perspective, we do cover SageMaker here. We do cover Azure ML Studio here, which is part of that certification programs. Definitely, it helps.
Okay, so I mean, will we be able to get any guidance on the certification tracks? Like, I mean,
I mean,
um,
so this is
because
not a certification. I mean, this is not the AWS Machine Learning Specialty Certification Program or maybe the Azure Data Science Certification Program. So this is the MLOps program basically. So definitely we can able to share you the resources that would able to help you helpful for you to clear that certification programs.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So there are
Let me
so
just
there is no Azure based MLOps certifications.
no, there
Or,
is no official certification programs from the cloud platforms yet. Yeah.
okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yes. So, and again, this program is purely focused on MLOps. So this is not a program where you will be learning Python programming from scratch. No, here we don't teach data science, or here we don't teach, let's say ML. I mean, here we don't teach, let's say, how to build an ML models from scratch, because that is completely out of a scope. This is purely into MLOps. Anything related to the MLOps from scratch to the expert level, we'll be covering here. Perfect. So now just let me know if you folks have any other questions. Please unmute your mic and we can have a conversation. Okay, so here we have a San asking a question. Any options to pay the fees after getting a job who don't have a job right now? So, I mean, definitely we don't have a schemes like that. We don't want to get into that kind of a things. I mean, we have seen, let's say, maybe you might be signing an agreement saying that, okay, so once you got a job, you might be paying some percentage to it. I don't think so. That's the best thing to do for the candidates. And we do have the best pricing schemes. You can able to go for an EMI options that can be the best match for you. We can able to take a EMI option starting from 3 months to 18 months for any working professional, or maybe even you can be a fresher that can be really implemented. So Neeraj does ask a question. So can a fee be paid in a multiple installments? Definitely, Neeraj. We do have an EMI options which you can able to use it for making a payment. So I would suggest you folks to contact me post completion this demo sessions, because you might need some consulting before you getting started with MLOps. So I might be the best person that you need to talk to. You can also contact me with this contact numbers I have shared. I'm going to share this links once again in the chat window. Please do let me know if you have any questions. You can also unmute your mic and you can also talk to me. In the meantime, if folks asking any questions, so maybe I can able to play one of our testimonials where it can able to give you some better insights, I believe. Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to read out a few more questions that I can see in the chat window. Ask as many questions that you need. Okay, let me just scroll up. Okay, here we go. Yes. Okay, in the meantime, let me just play the testimonials. And in the meantime, I open that. Let me just go to my deployment platform. So where I can able to show you how to deploy this ML model to production. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to show you how to deploy this ML model to production. So as of right now, I showed you how to deploy this ML model to dev environment. So now I'm going to show you how to deploy this ML model to production environment. So in order to deploy this ML model to production environment, so we'll be using a tool called AWS Code Pipelines, where our actual pipelines run. So once I go to this code pipelines, we should be able to see the actual pipelines that is actually running, and it is actually waiting for me in order to deploy it. So this is a pipeline which is in progress. If I go to this particular pipeline, and here you should be able to notice the pipeline that we have built. It has multiple stages. Source represents where the source code is coming from. Build represents where is your actual model building happens. And we have a deployment stage where we have a testing stage where we are doing the model testing, ensuring the quality. So then here is my approval step. Same process. I simply click on a review button in order to approve my ML model to production. So here again, I put up a message. So what are the message that you want to mention? And I can simply click this orange color button that says approve. That's it. So now my model is getting deployed to a production environment. So now it's going to take again a few minutes to deploy this ML model to production. You can also monitor the status of a deployment when it comes to the endpoint section in your SageMaker Studio. So similar to SageMaker Studio, we will be exploring Azure ML Studio or Vertex AI Studio for building this complete process. Obviously, there's a lot of things going beyond this. There's a lot of code that is written by a data scientist, a lot of things that is happening in a CI/CD pipeline. So this is just a demo to understand the taste of how this end-to-end MLOps pipelines would look like. So now here you should be able to notice that my model is yet to be deployed to production, and it is currently in a creation stage basically. Okay, so in the meantime it's getting deployed. Let me just answer a few of your questions, then I will come back. Okay, here we have a question in a chat window. The person asked, okay, so the person asked, if a person do not have any data science or ML skill set, does this program works for you? Definitely yes. This program is, as I mentioned, this is not just for data scientists. So this is definitely for, let's say if you are if you're interested in data and AI industry, at least let's make sure that you are from IT. Maybe if you're going to say that I'm a non-IT person, I have no idea about technology, maybe this is not a program for you. But let's say you are a software developer, you could able to make an applications, so you are a best person to get started. So as I mentioned, it's going to be depending on what kind of a role that you're going to really target. So consider that this is a program also for data scientists. So this is a program for data engineers and data analysts. This is also a program for DevOps engineers. Consider that DevOps engineers has no idea what is our data scientist doing. DevOps engineers has no idea how to build an ML model, what is an algorithm here. So they don't need a data science or machine learning skill sets when DevOps persons are transforming into ML engineering domain or MLOps engineering domain. But even though DevOps engineers should have a good awareness of what is exactly our data scientist is doing or what is exactly our data engineer is doing. It's similar to what's happening in a DevOps industry. Let's say you are a DevOps professional working for a software industry. You cannot say that I have no idea what is our developers are doing, what kind of application they are building. You need to have a good idea. They might be building a Java application. They might be working with a Node.js application. You have a good idea on that. The same process applies here. Yes, there's no need for you to become a data scientist or ML engineer to take this particular program. If you're a software developer or someone from an IT, you can get started with this particular program. So Amit asking a question, do we need to have a programming language or do we need to be certified in AWS? Azure? No, definitely not. Definitely not. So basically there is no certification program in MLOps, no. So there is no need for you to be already aware about AWS or Azure or GCP to take this particular program. So here we will be learning a tools for building MLOps pipelines. For example, let's say when we're talking about AWS, we do cover DevOps and MLOps tools from scratch. So that's where you learn also how to use AWS and how to work with those tools, DevOps tools, or maybe the ML tools like SageMaker. The same process applies for GCP or Azure, for example. And again, when it comes to the programming language expertise, let's say if you're going to say that I'm a data scientist, I'm a data engineer, and if you're going to ask a question, do I need a programming language? I would say definitely yes. You need to have an in-depth knowledge of Python in case if you are an existing data engineer or data scientist. But otherwise, let's say if you're going to say that I'm a DevOps professional or I'm a software engineer, someone who's going to look into the positions like MLOps engineer, ML engineer, or maybe the lead peoples. So definitely you don't need expertise like data scientist or data engineer, but I would definitely not say that you should have a zero programming experience. It's good to have some kind of a basics. If you're really good at any programming basics, it's definitely going to help you. So Dr. Sunil Kumar asking, what about the access to GPUs? You don't need access to GPUs over here because let's say when it comes to the cloud platforms here, you don't need to pay for any GPUs. Let's say the CPUs or GPUs even. Let's say when we talk about AWS or Azure or GCP that we're going to consume here. So every cloud platforms offers a free trial limit. AWS offers 1 year free trial. Azure and GCP offers a credits for you to get started. So those credits and free trial limits would be more than enough for us to explore in this particular program. And even after completing this particular program for your own personal interest, those free trial limits would be more than enough. So please let me know if you folks have any other questions related to the curriculum, the pricing structure, anything, so I can able to help you with. Yes, folks, let me know if you have any other questions. In the meantime, if folks ask a question, let me just go ahead and take a look what happened with the deployment of my ML model to production. Let me quickly refresh here, and you should be able to notice that my ML model has been deployed to production already. You can see that my model endpoint name is MLOps-demo-jan prod, which is the model that is deployed to production. I will just copy this endpoint. I will just go to this simple script that I have basically designed to invoke an ML model. Okay, so now I have replaced my endpoint name, and here I'm using a same data set, and here I'm invoking my ML model by calling SageMaker runtime dot invoke endpoint, and here I pass my payload, which is nothing but the data from this data set. Let me just quickly hit run, and here we go. We got a same prediction. So obviously it's the same ML model which is deployed on two different environments. Obviously we do expect it to produce the same results. So you can see it is also making a prediction saying that 10.34 is an actual age of an abalone. That makes pretty much more sense, right? Okay, getting back to the slides. Okay, let me know if you folks have any other questions. I'm open to talk. I'm going to spend a few more minutes. If you guys have any questions, let me know. As I mentioned, this program is going to get started from January 6th. And the time is, let's say we're going to join from India, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. in EST, 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in CET time. So the structure of a program is every Saturday, Sunday, we'll be having a live sessions. Every Monday, you'll be receiving access to recordings. And every weekdays, we do have a debugging sessions. It's optional to attend. You can make your time and you can join, and where I will be assisting you to fix the problem that you have. Saying that, don't miss this exciting offers. And this is only for 10 people's, folks, not for many people's. Candidates are going to register before 18th of December, but even 18th of December is not guaranteed. So all you need to do, let's say if you're looking for base advanced plan, go ahead and register for basic plan, and you will be upgraded to advanced plan completely for free. In the same process, go ahead and register for advanced plan, and we will be upgrading you to advanced plus plan completely for free. That means you can able to get started with this program immediately in next 24 hours. You don't want to wait till 6th of January. Okay, so saying that, let me just answer a few more questions. Shri Hari asked a question, do we need to have DevOps as a prerequisite? Definitely not. Here is the thing, Shri Hari asked a very good question. What Shri Hari is asking, do we need to have a DevOps skills to start with MLOps? Here is my straight answer. Let's say if we talk about data scientist, so data scientist also they need to upskill themselves into MLOps. See, I will tell you there is an added advantage if you are a DevOps professional, because DevOps professionals comes with an existing skills with traditional DevOps tools, working with CI/CD, maybe working with source code repositories. But our data scientists, our data engineers has no idea on DevOps. They have no idea on CI/CD pipelines. They have no idea on source code repositories. So you don't need DevOps as a prerequisite, because we do teach DevOps in this particular program. So DevOps is a stepping stone, the basic stepping stone for you to get started with MLOps. And if you check the modules that we do have, let's say what I'm talking about, our module number 4, here we cover DevOps as part of introduction to CI/CD. We do cover DevOps from scratch to all the cloud platforms. Okay, here we have another question from May. I mean, the name, it says May. Will fetch job support provide for candidates outside India? Definitely yes, May, because whether you've been in India or maybe you're outside India, doesn't matter. We do help you optimize your resumes. We do help you helping you debugging or maybe decoding your job description that you're going to apply for. So definitely always, we do have candidates from global. We do have candidates joining from US, UK, and other parts of the country. We do have helped those candidates, and we do have candidates who have attained success. If you go ahead and check the testimonials, you could able to see we do have a testimonials flavors from all the different countries basically. Okay, I'm getting a few more questions. Let me just ask mention that Shri Hari asking a question. Okay, so she has asked another good question. In my next question is, if security is integrated, then is there anything like ML SysOps? I mean, so let's say there's nothing a specific thing called ML SysOps. When it comes to the MLOps perspective, we do also discuss the security standpoint when it comes to this pipelines, especially when I'm talking about the post-deployment challenges. We do talk about a lot of security aspects of the software engineering related challenges. And again, each and every time when I'm talking about, let's say, the MLOps, it's all about the collaboration and communication between a teams. So let's say here we do have a different kind of a security has to be assigned. I mean, the different kind of a roles and policies has to be assigned. Let's say we do have a data engineer, we do have a data scientist, we do have ML engineers, we do have MLOps engineers. So basically, you don't want to give a permission for a junior data scientist to approve your ML model. Maybe a senior data scientist has a powers to approve your ML model, which comes under a security standpoint, which is already in place with these studios. Srihari. Okay, that's a good question. We discussed this already. Shriyari asking a question, what is an average salary for average pay scale for India? Like, so here is a data that we got for both an average salary for someone who has an MLOps skill sets on your resume when it comes to India. It starts from 23.1 lakhs in India. It might vary, depends on different organization, but an average salary standpoint to, let's say, the MNCs. And when it comes to the global perspective, the US perspective, it starts from 94,000. I mean, so $94,000, right, per year. So this would be the average salary, and again, based on your experience, like maybe you are having a 2 to 3 years of experience. I'm talking in the perspective of 2 to 3 years of experience. Let's say you might be in a scale of 5 years of experience, 6 or maybe 12 years of experience, and based on your experience range, your the pay slab will keeps on going up. Let's say, especially when you are going to work with senior positions like leadership positions like MLOps lead engineer, architect, specialist kind of roles. So definitely your pay scale will be pretty much higher than what I'm talking about here. Yeah. Okay, folks, let me know if you guys have any other questions. Yeah, I'm going to state a few more minutes. So please let me know. So I'm going to just play this testimonies for a few seconds.
What are the companies that you have applied for? So we can talk about the ML engineering job or what they are.
Okay, let me know, folks, if you have any other questions so I can able to help you with.
So, but I'm for the AML course, so artificial / machine learning engineer.
Okay, so here we have a question from Shriyari again. Okay, Sriyari does ask a question showing that with this training, could you be able to promote ourselves as experienced guys? If yes, then how many years that you can able to showcase? Okay, this is a kind of a tricky question. Let's say what he's trying to ask, basically, let's say maybe we cannot put you some kind of a fake experiences here. Maybe that's not how we want to showcase. Okay, consider that you, let's say, let me just throw you this way. Let's say you are a data analyst, but let's say you are, so never worked on ML industries, how you can able to showcase yourself. So definitely we need to have some validation. Definitely we can showcase this experience, but good validation. So consider that you might be working as a data analyst, you have a good sense of working with analyzing a data. When it comes to data analyst, plays very important role in MLOps, especially he can play a very important role in model monitoring. Let's say building a good dashboard, harvesting the data from your infrastructure, from model monitoring tools, and telling a story about it. So maybe once you have a good data analyst skills, you can able to demonstrate you have an experience with model monitoring tools, especially working with MLOps engineering side, would definitely helps you showcasing that particular experience. So you cannot just say that, okay, I'm a let's say, especially when you're going to say that I'm a non-tech person, I just want to show this experience, which definitely going to not work for non-tech person. But you're already coming from an IT experience. That's where the consulting comes into the picture, Sriyari. Let's say, first we will try to understand, so what does your experience looks like? What are the fields that you've been working with? Let's say you might be a data analyst, maybe a data engineer. So how does your resume should look like? What kind of a roles that you need to really apply for? Let's say you're a data analyst, but you're going to say that I want to apply for data science roles. Becoming a data scientist is a different ball game. You need to have a good in-depth skills on Python programming, algorithms, statistics, probability, all those stuff, right? So maybe data science roles might not apply for you. Maybe we want to look into the positions like MLOps engineer, the lead positions basically. So thanks for mentioning your experience. He says he has a 15 years of experience in IT and 3 in cloud security. So definitely then I would suggest that having the 15 years of experience, I would suggest you to look forward into the leadership positions like MLOps lead engineer, architect and specialist kind of roles. Basically there you don't make your hands dirty and build ML models, but you need to have definitely skills on MLOps. I mean the 360-degree view of MLOps, where you will be capable of building up pipelines, maintaining the infrastructure, taking care of that particular infrastructure can be the best part for you.
There's also cloud part also there. So cloud part and Docker. So there's a question related to Docker. Okay. Kubernetes. And on the AWS, they asked me the full CI/CD pipeline, how it works, and how one question is how we stop CI/CD pipeline. What is the procedure for stopping? If it is possible manually or not. So that all they said is how to deploy. How they to production. Okay. How can I deploy? Such type of question they asked me that interview. So I do all the questions with the help of your teaching on this. Perfect. I'm really happy for that. Okay. So I'm really happy for that. That's good. So what a company name that you mentioned? The SA Technology. SA Technology. So based out of? In Mumbai. Mumbai. Perfect. So you are also from Mumbai, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. That's good. So now you're asking questions. So now you have a 20 days of time. Yes. So the joining date, you're asking, okay, can I able to apply for other job roles like MLOps? Yes. Definitely, please do apply. So even if you get a better package, yes, why not, right? So you can also look for the better opportunity. So please go ahead, as you usually do, apply for this job and share the job description if you need any insights on that. I'm very much happy to provide that. Okay? Yeah, that's really awesome. And is there any other questions that you need to ask? Also, so purely, okay, go ahead. Yeah. Now onward from tomorrow today, I apply based on the month. Hello, Rahul. Hello. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Okay. So that's why I called you regarding that. Can I apply now all full page on for MLOps? Yeah. Please proceed. Still we have to cover a few more things on MLOps. Still we have to cover the AWS MLOps, that full-fledged project that we might cover in the next weekend. Not this coming weekend, the next coming weekend. Still we have.
Okay, perfect. So these are the testimonials of our previous batch participants. So who could able to crack a job and he's asking questions. Okay, he has a lot of time and whether he can able to apply for other jobs that's outside. So definitely, yes, he can able to apply. So similar to that, you can also look into a lot of other testimonials, which really makes you excited to register for this particular program. And again, so this offers that we are discussing about, it's for very limited time. So just think about this particular offers. Just by registering for a basic plan, you can able to get an access to advanced plan. Just by registering for let's say advanced plan, you can able to get an access to advanced plus plan. That means you can able to get started with this particular program in next 24 hours by we will be sharing an access to recordings. And again, this is only strictly for first time registrations, but the deadlines will be 18th of December. So that's how it works. Please let me know if you have any further questions. So I will be a point of contact. So I'm going to spare 2 more minutes if you folks have any other questions. I'm going to share this links once again in the chat window. Here we go. The first link is for registration. The second link where you can able to download the curriculum. The third link where you can download the free ebooks. And below is my contact number. Feel free to call me, text me anytime if you have any further questions regarding this. I'll be a point of contact always. So yeah, we can have some consulting. Let's try to understand what kind of a work that you've been doing right now, and then let me suggest what really works for you. So what kind of a role that you can really focus on. Yes. Yes. Please let me know if you have any further questions that I can able to help you with. I'm going to just stay for a few more minutes. Yep. Okay, thank you so much for making your time till end of this particular program. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any questions further, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, and yeah, happy New Year and happy Christmas. Thank you so much, folks. Bye.